Okay. Now, this is Lynn Sunshine. Welcome to the new and important training for spring 2019. I'm joined by Bobby Doherty, one of our nurses in the Health and Wellness Department at 9 Health Fair. And what we are going to do tonight is go through all of the new and important things that you're going to need to run a successful fair for spring 2019. Here is the agenda of what we're going to be going through. I'm not going to focus too much on it. We're going to go through, we've already gone through introductions, resources and reminder, what's new with 9 Health, what's new with screenings at fairs, and then reminders, what to do before your fair, what to do day of your fair, what to do after your fair. And at that point, we'll have time for some questions. If you do have questions during the presentation this evening, during the webinar, there is for those that are on the web, there is a chat box in the lower left corner, and if you have questions, go ahead and type your question in there. You can also raise your hand, and that is for those that are on the web. You can raise your hand. If you are not on the web, we do have a couple of people who are on audio only. If you have a question during the presentation, please just let us know, unmute yourself, but then remute yourself, please, after your question has been asked. But if you can wait till the end, we will have questions definitely at the end. So we have a variety of new staff at 9 Health. Ellen White is our new Chief Financial Officer. Many of you were probably familiar with Dave Fickle, and he has retired, but Ellen has joined us and is great and will be a great support to you in the cashier area. Kat Lyons is our Communications and Marketing Coordinator. She has replaced Ashley Atkinson. And I'm not going to read their bios. You will see them when I send it to you by email. Taylor Roddy is our Program Director. She's dealing with e-tools and a couple of other areas of programming. Melinda Taylor is our Data Support Analyst, and she's creating impact reports for each site as the fairs go on and doing additional data information. Zali Gambor is our Client Services Coordinator. She is working with Melody Ryan. Dan Cronin is our South Colorado Liaison and has been at Mission Medical for several years and has now joined us as a liaison. Betty, can you please mute yourself if we don't hear you? Karen Garcia is a Denver North and Fall Fair Medical Liaison, as well as our DPP Program Manager. She took the responsibilities of Beth Brady. Stella Trujillo, if you've called into our office, Stella is our new receptionist, and she is happy to help you in any way she can. Lastly, Stephanie Carlson. She's our Digital Media Manager, and she took the place of Liz Ritteman. The next subject we're going to talk about is the resource guide. Again, Betty, would you please mute your phone?
The conference has been muted.
Okay. The resource guide. The 2019 updates are going to be distributed shortly. They will be sent to each site coordinator. You will get an instruction sheet that's going to tell you what pages to remove and which pages to replace, and those will be coming. You will get a copy for your medical coordinator and your non-medical coordinator, and you will also have the ability to make as many copies of that as you wish, but 9 Health can provide you only with the 3 main copies. So the resource guide also, just so you know, the resource guide contains the medical qualifications required for each screening. It provides an overview of the screening, and it tells you what supplies are being sent and which supplies are needed to be provided by the site. Another really good area to look at is the resource library. This is on your dashboard, on your coordinator dashboard, and it will give you just a wealth of printed materials to help you in coordinating your fair. So you're going to log into the website. You'll see your coordinator dashboard, and then on the left-hand side, a little bit down a bit, not very far, there's a warning that tells you not to turn off your, or not to delete your screening numbers. It's going to be right below that. It will give you access to the resource library. There you can get a complete copy of the resource guide by section in PDF format, copies of each station and screening protocol, copies of the past nuts and bolts newsletters that have been sent to site leaders, publicity and promotional resources, 9Health's letterhead so that you can send out letters to vendors where you're trying to achieve donations, or you can send thank you letters as well. And there's a new section that was added actually last year, but it has been, the materials in it have been increased, and it's called Best Practices. And it's an opportunity to share with each other things that are going really well at your fairs. For example, if you have really good signage, if you have a very good volunteer appreciation idea, or training techniques, or customer service concepts, please feel free to send that to us, and we can include it in the best practices section. It's very important that you take time to familiarize yourself with what's available in the resource library. The idea is to provide you with the resources you need to save you time of requesting something from staff or your liaison, but you can feel free to reach out to them if you do have questions. The list here is not a complete list of everything that's available. Some of the things just to give those people who are just audio, again, it's the resource guide by section, individual screening and station protocols, the monthly nuts and bolts e-newsletter, promotional materials for local publicity, medical resources for your registration educator, and ask a medical question, get a referral, volunteer management tools, website training videos, and step-by-step guides for centrifuge and online registration, plus that new best practices section. If there's something that's not available on the resource list, please contact Dane Linder, who is our IT director, or the Client Services Department to request that the item be added. E-newsletters. You should be receiving, as a site leader, beginning actually since October, there have been monthly, almost monthly, newsletters sent to site leaders that is called Nuts and Bolts. It's sent to your site coordinator, your medical coordinator, non-medical coordinator, and any co-coordinators. Basically, any coordinator that's listed in your site's steps. The purpose of the e-newsletter is to assist you with the timeline, with logistics, with medical information, in order for you to be able to coordinate a successful fair. Again, if there are topics that you would like to see addressed in the newsletters, nuts and bolts, there's also one that comes from our volunteer engagement department called Volunteer Voices, and that will give you information about volunteer opportunities outside of your site. But also, if you need assistance on your leadership team, that's a good way to be able to send that around and have people notify volunteer engagement about possible leadership volunteers. If there are topics that you would like to see addressed in those newsletters, or you are not receiving those newsletters, please contact Melody Ryan. She is available at Melody, MELODY, Ryan, RYAN, at 9healthfair.org. So we have a lot of website help for you. There are training videos that are available on our website under, when you go to the main homepage, if you click on volunteer and training, it will take you to the page that has all of the training information. You can also access, again, the resource library from your coordinator dashboard, and there are videos located there. The website training webinar was recorded on January 21st and is available on the homepage of the website. In addition, there are going to be 4 in-person training supports, and those are at 4 different locations throughout the state. There's one up north in Longmont, one at Heather Gardens in Aurora, one down south in Colorado Springs at DeVita, and one at Red Rocks Community College. For more information, you can check that training document that's connected to that volunteer training. There's a link to click on the training calendar, and you can get it from there. In addition, we have a website support coordinator. His name is Steve Hall. He will be the one that will be conducting those in-person trainings, and he can be reached. His cell phone is included in the slide presentation, and as is his email. If you do have additional questions after that, please reach out to your liaison or the volunteer engagement team for any questions regarding the website. In addition, there are other training videos that are located at a couple of locations on the website, and that link is included in the PowerPoint deck. When a volunteer registers to volunteer at your fair as a day of volunteer, you should send them the link to the appropriate training video for their station. You will see, if you go into your dashboard, you will see imported volunteers. This is an alert for you because those volunteers actually have not expressed interest in volunteering. Those were automatically uploaded in our system. This is a fault of our system, so you shouldn't take those volunteers that are noted as imported as being interested. Better yet, you should search for the previous year volunteers from the 2018 season by clicking on search in your dashboard, in your coordinator dashboard. You should have already sent them, hopefully, a save the date card for your 2018 season and ask them to volunteer for your site again. It does pay off very wonderfully, and it makes people feel really good that you've reached back out to them again.
Now for your medical volunteer resources. You can contact your 2018 medical volunteers like Lynn just said, as far as asking them to volunteer again in 2019. And you'd be surprised how many say they would come back if they were contacted. Then you can also get medical volunteers from different places that are medical in your area, nursing schools, medical clinics. MAs can draw blood. Most of them draw blood in the office every day and are very good at it. You can go to your local fire department and ask them if they can volunteer. There's a lot of different clinics around. You can go and ask them at those clinics as well. And you can, if you are in trouble with finding volunteers that are medical, you can call the 9 Health Fair and ask to speak to any one of us in the medical department, and we can help you, or you can let Alex know, our volunteer coordinator. We are going to contact different agencies that might be able to help you. So don't try to contact them on your own. The reason for that is if every site coordinator, medical coordinator wanted to contact these agencies, they wouldn't have time to work. So we will contact those and we will let them know, if they are willing to volunteer at your site. Okay. For a volunteer discount, we appreciate everything you do, and we want to offer you again this year the 20% off on all the screenings that you get at the 9 Health Fair. It's very easy to do. You just either pre-register online to attend the fair of your choice, and you can write in "Thank you Vol 19," which is not case sensitive, and that's our little code discount word. Or you can register at the fair you choose to attend, whether it's your own fair that you're volunteering at or another fair. So make sure you use that discount. It's an appreciation from all of us. Many statewide sites have pre-draws the day before their fair, so they can just do volunteers, and then they don't have to worry the day of to try to get those volunteers to have their blood work during their fair. Fasting is not required, so volunteer has an option to possibly, if you're at a fair, when it's slow, you can just go and get your blood work done. So you have a choice there. Okay, how do I help my participants to volunteer at the fair? Some of the things you can do, as I just mentioned, I won't mention them again, are the day of volunteers. Have them attend another fair. If they're volunteering at one fair, you can just have them go to another fair. Offer pre-draws for those volunteers, and maybe rotate volunteers so that they can go to the bloodline, like I said, when it's slower. But just be creative, and if you figure out something that could be a best practice at your fair and you'd like to share it with us as far as how to get volunteers to volunteer, to get their blood work, just please let us know. Okay, we also have the family and friends discount. We want you to share this with anyone who has not been to a 9 Health Fair before, and they do the volunteer code the same as you would, except it's my first 9 HF for my first 9 Health Fair. That's not case sensitive as well. So it's my first 9 HF, and they would get the 20% discount as well. So encourage your family and friends, if they've never been to a fair, to do that. They can register online as well as only online if they're friends and family. You don't want to do this one, Jen? No.
So the best way for you to have a very successful fair is to have a nice, large volunteer team. That means you have a lot more fun, you can have specialized positions, and you can decrease the workload for everybody. It's just, if you bring in a couple of new team members and they can have the dedicated support roles, it allows them to focus on that specific role and really feel accomplished when they're done with that task. It also allows you time to make sure everything is being covered efficiently. And you may ask, how do I find those volunteers? Well, really, most of the time, all you have to do is ask. Ask your friends, have your team ask their friends. If you have a really great day of fair volunteer from a previous year, ask them to join your team. That's just really an excellent way. In addition, you're going to be getting a sign in your packet of signs that are going to be placed around your fair that will help you to recruit volunteer leaders. And what you'll need to do is each of the little stick figures, you can see the little stick figures, each has a title. So what you're going to do is put in the name of that person for your fair and put it in your volunteer break room or hang it at volunteer check-in, but make sure that that's very visible so that people have the opportunity to join your volunteer team, your leadership team for next season. So in the nuts and bolts, I believe it's in the nuts and bolts that was just sent out, there is going to be a link for ordering t-shirts online. Your team should designate one leadership volunteer to order the t-shirts, and 9 Health will cover the cost of up to 10 t-shirts. But additional t-shirts for Day of Fair volunteers, if you determine that you want all of your volunteers to have a t-shirt, they can be purchased for $5 each. I want you just to really let this next phrase sink in. No payment is required at the time of your online order. It may look on the website like you need to pay, but you don't. The site leader will be sent an invoice after the spring 2019 season for any additional t-shirts that have been ordered that are above the 10. All of the shirts are royal blue. They're the same color as previously. And so another thing is, it's really important that you go in to your dashboard and enter any co-coordinators that are serving on your leadership team, either coordinators or co-coordinators. So if you have a food coordinator, if you have an IEC coordinator, those are not included in your steps, but they should be added by clicking on co-coordinator on the on your dashboard, on your coordinator dashboard. And the sites will get a free t-shirt for each site leader listed on the website. But that's a way to ensure that there's not an issue with how many shirts you get to have at your site. Each site team will be given blood screening vouchers. You don't need to request them. And again, they're going to be given for each coordinator that is listed on your site. So under your co-coordinators, that's why, again, it's really important. They're going to be sent to the site coordinator for distribution to the leadership team. Again, you don't need to request them. And if you feel like you need additional vouchers for other members of your site leadership team, please contact your staff liaison. Staff liaisons and client services will work together to accommodate any requests for those additional site vouchers. Each site will also be receiving 3 blood chemistry vouchers to be used for people in need within your community. If your site would like to have additional vouchers, up to an additional 15, so a total of 18, can be requested by contacting Terry Kuhn, who is our senior accountant. Statewide requests for those additional community vouchers are due by February 8th, which is this coming Friday, and Metro requests are due by the 15th of February. If you are going to have the additional vouchers, you do need to have a distribution plan, and if you need help developing that voucher distribution plan, you can contact our community outreach specialist, Virginia Pivick, and her email address and phone number are included in the PowerPoint deck. If you do want to request additional vouchers, they do need to be sent to Terry Kuhn. Again, her email address is in the deck. And reminder that these vouchers are available for people who would not otherwise be able to afford the blood chemistry screening. Online registration. Your online participants should arrive at your site with a 2-page, single-sided printout of their registration form. They will register at the check-in table for online registration, and they will be given stickers to give to the phlebotomist. Online registrants bypass on-site registration, form check, and cashiering, and go straight to the blood draw area after checking in, but they merge into the existing line. So it doesn't necessarily give them the ability to just step in front of the line. Online registration protocol is included in Section 4 of the resource guide, and we urge you to have a separate online registration with the appropriate number of volunteers to handle the number of online registrants that will be coming to your site. Your coordinator dashboard will allow you to print out the online registration listing for your site, and you can check that as you're leading up to your day of fair. You should know that online registration will remain open until basically the minute before your fair. So we'll get to that in just a second. But it's also important to know that if you have up to 100 online participants, you need a minimum of 2 volunteers checking in those online participants. If you have up to 200, you need at least 3 volunteers helping with that area. For each additional 100 participants, you should add another volunteer. Also bear in mind that if a participant has registered for another site, not yours, but comes to your site with their online registration form, all you're going to do is add their information to the exception report, and that form will be provided to you, and let them continue through your fair. You'll just give them the stickers and send them on their way to the lab. The people that should be trained on the basics of online registration are, of course, your online registration volunteers, any ambassadors or traffic volunteers in your registration area, your cashier supervisor, and your lab supervisor. You're going to print your online registration report from your coordinator dashboard. That is at the bottom of your coordinator dashboard. Online registration, again, will stay open until the minute before your fair opens to the public, but don't panic because you'll be able to manage it. All you need to do is make sure that you have extra volunteers, extra copies of the online exception report, which is the spreadsheet that you're going to fill in the person's name and their registration number and what things that they have registered for. They're going to be able to hand you their online registration report. So you'll pull that information right off their registration report and onto your exception report. On the resource library, there is a whole section on online registration that gives you 3 different types of checklists to know how to handle online registration. And in addition, there's a training video that you should watch, and you should also give it to your online registration volunteers. Cashiering. Cashier forms and supplies will be sent directly to the cashier supervisor. Here's another piece that's really, really important. Never send currency, no coins, no paper money, to the 9Health office. You can take that currency that you might get if people pay in cash, and we do get some that pay in cash. It either needs to be converted to a cashier's check, or you can take that cash and write a check for it. It is better if you can do a cashier's check because then there's no issue if there's a problem with the check, but no currency can be sent to the 9Health office. If there are cashiering questions, we urge you to contact our accounting department, our finance department, and we urge you to contact Terry Kuhn first. Ellen White's number is also listed. She is our CFO, but you should check first with Terry if you have any questions. And just to let you know, statewide sites will again receive credit card machines. What's new at the fair?
Well, we have some exciting things that are new at the fair. We have a couple of new blood screenings, but before I go into those, I want to let you know that we are no longer offering the female testosterone at any of our sites. We will have the male testosterone that still can be purchased, but we are not offering the female testosterone this year. Our 2 new blood screenings that we have, one is the HSCRP. That stands for High Sensitive C-Reactive Protein Screening, and this is a blood test that can detect inflammation in the system. This does not tell where the inflammation comes from. It's just if there is inflammation in the system. So a person who has, this can detect cardiovascular disease, and if a person has some cardiovascular disease such as high cholesterol, high blood pressure, if they have diabetes or prediabetes, if they are obese, or if they have a family history of heart disease, this might be a great test for them to take this year. Individuals without these risk factors might also benefit from this screening. Researchers have shown that high C-reactive protein levels can indicate a risk for a heart attack and stroke, even in individuals who might seem healthy. It's not a test for everybody, so you will need to have somebody in your registration area who is what we call the regicator. And they're medical people who can answer questions on especially these new tests before the participant signs up to or orders these tests. The next one we have is a blood type. We're offering this because for many years Our participants have been asking if they can have that done at the 9 Health Fair. It's an opportunity for people who don't know their blood type to find out what it is. As many of you know, there are 4 blood types. There's A, B, O, and then AB. It will also give you the RH factor, which is that positive or negative that you get with your blood type. If a person knows their blood type, they do not need to have it again unless they have had a bone marrow transplant, and then the blood type can change. But other than that, it will always remain the same. The colon cancer screening kits are the same as we had last year. These kits do expire, so if you happen to have any left from last year, check that expiration date. And if it expires within the next 6 months, please do not pass those out at your fair. Throw them away. You will be getting enough in your supplies to cover those at your fair who want a screening kit. We ask that you have somebody at that booth who is educated in colon cancer and can really advise your participants if they would need to purchase a kit or not. On these kits, you will have to write 9HF on the yellow envelope inside, and that's the envelope where the participants will put their little card, which they have their specimen on. They'll put that in the yellow envelope and then send it back to Quest Labs. These do not come back to the 9 Health Fair. It goes to Quest. And Quest does not know it's from a 9 Health Fair site unless NHF is written on that yellow envelope. On the flap inside, we want to make sure that you don't write it where the sticker is, where you lick the envelope, because then the lab would not be able to read it. The reason we have this is so important is because if someone has a positive result, the volunteers at the 9 Health Fair will call these participants and explain what the result is and what further action they need to take. So that's very important to write 9HF on those yellow envelopes inside the kit. The exit surveys are something we are trying again this year. We have done it in the past, and we are asking all sites to have participants, if they would, fill out an exit survey. These exit surveys will be supplied in your supplies when you get them. So all of you have to inventory your supplies. If, when you're inventorying supplies, you don't happen to find the exit surveys, let us know and we will get them to you, as with any other supply that you find missing. But it's real important that you inventory your supplies when you get them. Okay, it'd be important to have a volunteer at your checkout station. If you have one door, then you only need one volunteer there, or maybe 2. And if you have 2 exits, make sure one is stationed at each of those exit doors. And this is a great place for non-medical volunteers with somebody who is outgoing and doesn't worry about talking to people and can really encourage people to fill these out. Site demographics and impacts reports will be given to the site coordinator via email after your site. This is very important that we do this because the data we receive from the participants and their experience really helps us to look at what we do in the future and change our ways.
Now we have some reminders before your fair. So I'm very, very hopeful that all of you have entered your screenings and stations on the 9 Health website, because Sunday, January 27th has already passed. We urge you to invite community clubs or high school, college clubs to organize parts of your fair and help you with setup or tear down. And also act as, parking lot attendants or welcoming ambassadors. These are great roles for them. We urge you to really familiarize yourself with the planning section of your resource guide, because that is really going to give you the timeline of what you need to do and when it needs to be done in order to have a successful fair. You're going to want to ask for donations for your volunteer break room, and you might have other areas where you want to ask for donations, but you should ask for them well in advance. In your materials, you will get some letterhead and envelopes, and you will also get a copy of the tax-exempt certificate for 9 Health, and that way you can reach out to vendors in your area and ask them for donations. In the metro area, I know that Einstein's Bagels is really good about it. Starbucks is really good about it. There's a lot of different places that are really good about donating to 9 Health Fair sites. So training events and dates, many of these have already passed. The new site leadership orientation has already gone, and it was not recorded. If you are a new site leader and you would like some information about what occurred during that orientation, please reach out to your liaison, and they will get in contact with us, and we'll be able to get you the information you need. This is the last of 4 new and important webinars. And so you will get the deck. If there are others that should have been on this new and important webinar and aren't, please feel free to share the information. And again, if there are people that should receive the deck, please reach out to your liaison and have them ask for it. Our model fair was last week, and so that's already come and gone. There is a video that is a model fair from the fall that you can look at. Will give you an idea of what happens during a model fair. Those 4 website trainings are coming up, and you can click on those training dates on the website and check out those days. We do ask that you RSVP for those website trainings so that we know when and where people need to be. So if no one registers for a website training session, it is quite likely that we will not send our trainer down to that site or to that site. There are packing days coming up, and that was why we needed to have you enter your screenings and stations. And you will get your supply delivery schedule. If you're statewide, it will come to you through your liaison, I believe. And if you're metro, it will come through your district leadership. Local publicity. Local publicity is very, very important because we have determined that most of the participants come to a 9 Health Fair from about a 5-mile radius of that location. And if there is local publicity done, it's very likely that more people will see that you're offering your fair and see where it is, and then you'll be able to have that many more people at your fair. There is a local publicity checklist, and I'm going to show that to you. That's on the next 2 slides. It's a 2-page or a 2-sided document. And you can download that on the resource list in the resource library. In addition, you should use the resource library to get those local publicity resources, which are flyers that you can fill in your information, 9 Health logos, information about webinars, and a lot more. In addition, your banner, your site will each have a banner, and the date stickers will be provided to you automatically. Those will be sent directly from 9 Health to the site so that you'll be able to put those stickers on your banners in enough time to put them out and then garner publicity for your fair. In addition, our communications department will be sending out what we call publicity nudges. Those will continue weekly in emails and are sent to your publicity coordinator about 8 weeks before your fair date is when they start, and they'll run up until your fair date. The publicity nudges are short reminders of what activities that you can be focusing on that specific week. And this is the first page of the publicity checklist. Again, you can access this document in the resource library. Here's the second page, again, in the resource library. So examples of things that you should be promoting at your fair are these new screenings that Bobby talked about, the HSCRP and blood type, any optional screenings that you are planning on offering. You can talk about 9 Healthy Tools, which if you go to our website and click on e-tools, you can see what's being offered there. We have partnerships with a variety of organizations that provide educational support in a variety of topics. The interactive education centers that you are planning on having at your fairs, those organizations are medically based, and you can have, they're not required, you can have 0, you can have as many as your site can handle. But they are approved, and by our Medical Advisory Committee and are medically based. Total Wellness Zone vendors, these are organizations that are not medically based, but they are based on health-related topics. Things like health club or health yoga studios might come. You might have a hypnotist. You might have an acupuncturist. They can't practice their craft. They can't hypnotize people. They can't practice acupuncture on them, but they can demonstrate on a dummy, or they can talk and provide education about their topic. If you have any questions about those, the protocols for both interactive education centers, the medically based and approved sites, and total wellness zones, those are not medically based and are educational, but they are not approved. Those protocols are located on the website in the resource library. If after reviewing those protocols you have questions, please feel free to reach out to your liaison because they'll be able to provide you with support there. We also urge you to create videos about your fair, about your site, using your team. We've learned that people trust branding, and a video coming from you is going to mean a lot to your participants. Videos are remembered 43% of the time, whereas text messages are only remembered 18% of the time. 64% of customers will buy a product after watching a video, so you can use this to boost your online registration or to talk about what screenings you're going to be offering or something about your fair that's unique. You can share that video or any pictures on social media, and you should tag 9Health Fair using @9Health Fair, and 9Health will also share your video. You can take a picture of your fair site. You can make a video with your team. Just think of creative ways to promote your fair. 9 Healthy Tools, this is what I talked about briefly. This is a suite of evidence-based virtual prevention tools to empower you to own your health throughout the year. We're trying to get our participants to focus on their health year-round and to be able to support them year-round. So you're going to be seeing 9Health being used whenever we advertise these different products and services. All of these services are meant to tie people back to your 9Health Fair, so that to give them additional support so that they know what is possible and that they feel supported in a variety of ways. Site grants. Each site will receive funds. They will receive at least $200, but it could be more than that based on the number of participants. There is no application needed. It will come automatically to your site. If your site will be receiving a site grant of $500 or more, those funds cannot go to an individual. They must be sent to a nonprofit organization or government entity, and there is paperwork required. So if you have a very large site and you've had a lot of participants, and you know that your site grant is going to be $500 or more, it's important to reach out to Terry Kuhn and make sure that you have all the paperwork completed in a timely fashion. These funds are meant to support your volunteers and to purchase items needed for running your fair. They're also intended to purchase food for your nourishment station. In years past, we had support from a grocery store chain, and they are no longer supporting that aspect of 9Health Fair. So you will not get a separate gift card for a specific grocery store. Those funds will be included in your site grant, and they're intended for you to purchase juice and crackers or something simple, graham crackers. Make sure that you have something gluten-free for your participants as they exit the lab. And if funds are also available, you can use those dollars to purchase food for your volunteers. For the site grant, it's essential that you keep your receipts and reconcile those expenditures and return that reconciliation back to client services. Return instructions about reconciliation will be included with your site grant.
Now we're going to talk a little about supplies. It's very difficult to run a 9 health fair if you don't have the correct supplies. And we at the office here are not mind readers, so we don't know what supplies you need unless you have it written on the dashboard on the website. So that's how we distinguish between which screenings you have. Excuse me. So make sure that your screenings are listed under your site on the dashboard and that they are correct. If you have space for a screening and you don't quite have the screener yet, go ahead and list it and we will send you the supplies anyway. You can return those if not needed. But we would rather have more supplies sent to your site that you need rather than not enough. So make sure that is correct on the website. You can change it very easily by just going to the website at any time and changing it.
One thing that's really important, if you do go into the website and change any information, at the bottom of those screens is a blue ribbon that you have got to click on. If you don't click on the blue ribbon, any changes that you made will not be saved. So you must click on the blue ribbon to save any changes.
And then you will think you have sent it to us and you wouldn't have.
Right.
So
if
we
you don't,
would not
you have
know.
to click on the blue ribbon. That's really important.
As I mentioned before, when you get your supplies, make sure you inventory them. Very, very important. Do not wait till the night before your fair to inventory supplies. It's very difficult to get those supplies to you after things have closed here. So make sure you inventory your supplies. The supplies from the 9 Health Fair will be delivered by the National Guard. We are in the process this week of starting to pack those supplies. So make sure tomorrow or when you get off tonight that your screenings are up to date on the website. The lab supplies come from Quest and they will be separately delivered so that you'll get 2 shipments. Make sure on the website also that the person who is accepting those supplies on your end, that their information is correct on the website. The supplies from the lab cannot go to a personal home. They must go to a place of business because of the sharps that are contained in them.
Another thing that's really important, just so you're aware, you will be receiving all of the basic protocols and tally sheets. 9 Health will be providing copies of all of those basic protocols and tally sheets. They'll be included with your supplies that are delivered by the National Guard. If you're offering optional screenings, your site will need to print those protocols. And the reason being is all 9 Health Fairs have the basic screenings and require the basic protocols. But each site may be different for the optional screenings, so it's harder for us to provide those.
Also, the laboratory equipment and the centrifuges, when you get those and you are inventorying them, make sure that those centrifuges work. Make sure that you can plug them in and they actually work. If you have any problems with them, contact Cindy Roberts, and she's at Quest, and her number will be also in these slides that you get. If you have questions about the National Guard delivery, you can talk to Dave Quintana, who is here at the office. He's our Manager of Operations and Logistics. And if you don't remember these people's names, just call in the office and tell us what you need, and we will make sure that you get to the person that you need to talk to.
And you'll see on the slide with Dave Quintana's information, it shows both his email address and his telephone number. It is best to send him a text to his telephone number or to call him. He is in and out of the office. He's in our warehouse, and so he's away from his computer most of the time, and it's just best to communicate with him by phone or text.
Okay, and the lab supervisor webinars are coming up in March, so you'll want your lab supervisor to attend one of these. Very important that the lab supervisor knows what's going on. So make sure that your lab supervisor will be able to attend one of these webinars, and the information will be at the Ready Talk just like tonight, and you will get that information. And lab supervisors should supervise the lab area and not draw blood, and they are not to be the hard stick person. Their role is to supervise. They also supervise the centrifuge area. We do recommend that you have a special coordinator, the centrifuge area coordinator, so that they can kind of look over that part of your health fair. The blood draws are very, very important, and if the blood is not spent correctly, then participants need to be redrawn, and they don't like that. So in order to run an efficient lab, you must make sure that that centrifuge area is well supervised and that the volunteers there really know how to do it. It's important also that people can read fine print at the centrifuge area because those tubes are very little. When the phlebotomists are writing on those tubes, it's kind of hard to see sometimes. So make sure people have good eyesight to do that. Phlebotomists must wear gloves in the blood area when drawing blood. This is a must. This is for the safety of the participant as well as for the safety of the phlebotomist. And it is a mandatory policy. It's also a mandatory policy that sharp containers are not shared by any of the phlebotomists. Each phlebotomist must have their own sharp container. And I think...
Reminders for day of fair. So when you have a screening that is changed or canceled, Bobby mentioned that after this webinar you should go on and make sure that your screenings are up to date. It might be possible that you hope that you can do a particular screening, but you can't find that screener. It's important that you keep those screenings up to date on your website, on your dashboard, because of the fact that that is what shows under Find a Fair when we have participants coming and checking on your fair. So if you are going to be offering skin screening, you think, but you don't have a screener on the day of your fair, you need to make sure that that does not show up any longer on your listing, because people may come to your site and say, but you said you were going to offer that screening, and you were, but you couldn't get a screener. That's okay. If you do on day of fair, if you have a screener that is a no-show, you can go in and you can take that off of your screening list, but you can also contact our hotline if your fair is running between April 6th and April 14th. You can contact our hotline number that's in the deck. If your fair is running before or after, before April 6th or after April 14th, you're going to need to contact Melody Ryan, and her number is included in the deck as well. But you can go in and change those numbers as needed, but it's important that they stay up to date. Our on-site registration form has changed slightly in that the yellow area, which is the information that is required, now shows information in both English and Spanish. So there are not going to be any Spanish forms per se. It is a single on-site registration form, and the people will still need to fill out all of the stuff that is marked in yellow, so their name, their address, their phone number, their email address, their age, their birth date, whether they're male or female, and the hours that they fasted. This is all really important. The prices have gone up on the testosterone, the male testosterone, and vitamin D. Both of those went up by $5. And also, in the past, we have offered vitamin B12 at no cost. That is not going to be the same. That is not going to be the case any longer. It is no longer free. Blood chemistry is still $35. Our next topic is the authorization form. The authorization form, if it is signed, provides 9Health with the ability to contact our participants and provide them with additional resources for improving their health. We can then tell them about new or existing health programs and education provided at no or low cost. The authorization form can be revoked at any time and it automatically expires after a 2-year period. On the registration form, there is a checkbox that if the participant signs the authorization form will need to be checked. That box is no longer yellow, it was yellow last year, and it has moved to the far left side of the registration form. So if the participant that box is checked, that means that the participant has read, agreed to, and signed the authorization form. The participant will retain the top white copy of the authorization form when they take it to form check. The volunteer in form check will take the carbonless copy and put it in an envelope that has been pre-marked and provided by 9Health for return to 9Health Fair. And they will give that white copy, the top copy, back to the participant. If a participant doesn't sign the authorization form, they will turn it back in at form check. Every on-site participant will receive an authorization form. This is hard to see, but that is a visual of the authorization form. They're going to be in black and white, and they will be supplied in the same numbers as the on-site participant forms. Again, form check will give the top copy to the participant, and the participant will take it, and form check will retain the carbon copy on the bottom and put it in the envelope as instructed. New to statewide sites is having the authorization form given out at on-site registration. So again, just like in the metro area in the past, the form will be given to all on-site registrants with their registration form. The form check station will collect both signed and unsigned copies, and they will go in separate marked envelopes for return to 9Health. The participant retains the original top copy, and the form check volunteer will take the carbonless copy and put it in that envelope. For the metro area, there are no new procedures for on-site registration. The form will still be given to all on-site registrants with their registration form, and form check will collect it the same way, taking both signed and unsigned forms, putting them in the appropriate envelopes, and the signed forms giving back the top copy to the participant and retaining the carbon copy for the envelope to return to 9Health. And again, the signed authorization form checkbox is no longer yellow and has moved to the left side of the form. Online registration now has the authorization form incorporated into the process. So there are 2 checkboxes for all online registrants. There are no additional procedures required for online registrants once they are on site. They will have already completed this process.
Okay, now just in case there's an accidental needle puncture or a biohazard protocol, biohazard exposure, we're going to go through quickly the protocol, which has not changed in years. If there is a biohazard exposure or an accidental needle puncture, then the phlebotomist or whoever it is that has been contaminated will notify the lab supervisor. It's the lab supervisor's responsibility to notify the site coordinator, and the site coordinator will probably notify the medical, or it could be vice versa. The lab supervisor can notify the medical coordinator or the site coordinator, but those 2 people need to know about it from the lab sup. The site coordinator or the medical coordinator will then notify the 9Health Fair, and we have a number that's for emergencies only. We carry what we call the BAT phone, which stands for Biohazard and Transport. And that BAT phone number is something that the lab supervisor, the supervisor of the site coordinator, as well as the medical site coordinator, will need to have that number available readily, hopefully in their phone, so they can call it right away. So they call the BAT phone, and we will talk the participant or the person who has been exposed through the process. You don't have to worry about that. Make sure that the participant stays at the blood draw station, and the participant we call who has contaminated that needle or the blood. The person who has been exposed will then wash the wound immediately, and then we have paperwork to fill out. There's tubes of blood that need to be drawn, extra tubes, etc. But you don't have to worry about that. All you have to worry about is if you're a site coordinator or a medical coordinator, to give the BAT phone a call, and we will do the rest. Make sure that the person contaminating the blood stays at that area, because we will need extra tubes of blood. Okay, the number for the BAT phone is 303-588-0093, just to have that handy. And if you want to prevent this from happening, then follow our safety measures in our protocols, and hopefully that won't happen. Cashier issues, in case you have questions, Lynn had mentioned to call Terry. You'll get those numbers, or Ellen, and we would call Terry first, and then Ellen. And online registration issues, you can either call Damelin or Melody, Ryan here, and those numbers are going to be given to you. So we don't have to go over those.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So tips to ensure that you have a smooth fair. We want you to make sure that you assign your volunteers prior to the day of fair. It's important also to email your volunteers regularly and ensure that they have all of the logistics and protocols for their assignment, that they understand the expectation of them, and that they have all the information that they're going to need so that they can have a positive experience at 9 Health Fair. Your volunteers should check with the participants in line to see if they need water, or possibly someone might need a chair. If you see someone that has a cane or a walker or is standing on crutches and you have a long line, offer them a chair. It's important to also have some additional volunteers, if you do have long lines during those heavy times, to stand as placeholders for participants needing to sit down. If they don't want to sit in line, that way they don't have to keep moving their chair. They can just go sit down, and when they get to the front of the line, they can get up, and the placeholder will go away, and that participant can then go and have their blood drawn. It's important to write the fasting hours and to witness the participant form on the online registration line before they reach the online registration table. What you can do is have some ambassadors or additional online registration volunteers with clipboards. It's also important for them to have additional copies of the online registration form in the case that your participant comes in with a double-sided copy. You would then give them page 2 of the online registration form so that then they have something that they can have the other screeners put their results on the form so that they can take it home. The online registration form is, if it is run double-sided, that whole form is going to be turned in with their blood specimen in the lab. So it's important for them to have page 2. You might also have online registrants that will come with their cell phones and have their online registration on their cell phone. That is not acceptable because they don't want to leave their cell phone in the lab. And so you're going to then have to have copies of both page 1 and page 2, and that's important to have adequate numbers of those copies, those pages, to give to participants that may show up. If they have registered for your fair and they are an online registrant, they're going to be on your online registration report. If they are not on your report, again, you're going to take their form and put all their information on the exception report, and it's important to have additional copies of the exception report as well.
Okay, where do things go? After your fair, everybody's going to want to go home. They're tired, but it's very, very important that your fair is not quite over yet. It's important that these supplies get to where they need to go, especially the blood and the pap smears, because those can be invasive procedures, of course. Don't want somebody to have a redraw. Okay, to Quest. Quest will send a courier to each of your sites, and it's prearranged. They'll give you a time that they're estimating to be there. The blood specimens with the lab copy of the participation form, whether it's online registration or on-site registration, those go to the lab with the specimens. Pap smears, any Pap smears you've done, along with the top copy of the Pap requisition will go to the lab, and the screeners will know how to do that. They'll be in the same bag. You don't have to worry about that. Any unused Pap supplies, please send with the courier to the Quest laboratories, and they will get them back to the 9 Health Fair. There's a lab supervisor's confidential envelope, which is provided in your supplies, and that would be any incident report that is filled out at your fair, any biohazardous incident report that is filled out, and those are 2 different incident reports, any phlebotomy agreements that the phlebotomists have signed, the white copies of the add-on and refund sheets from the cashier station have to go into that lab supervisor confidential envelope, which is sent back to Quest with the courier. Be sure that the lab and the cashier supervisors connect with each other so that the add-on and the refund sheets are enclosed in this. That's very important for the lab to know which lab test either subtract or add on so that somebody does not have to have a redraw. Cashiers will retain both the lab and the cashier's copy if a person has no blood drawn from the 9 Health Fair. So that person would go through the cashier line when they come in, then they would say they don't want blood. The cashier will write 0 on the little boxes on the registration form, unless they want to give a donation, and then they would fill that in at that time. And then the cashier will retain both the green copy as well as the white copy. The white copy is separate from the green copy. At the cashiers, they'll separate them and they put them in numerical order during their fair so that they're sent to us in numerical order. The biohazard waste is at a prearranged facility if you're statewide, and metro-wide, Quest takes care of that. The centrifuges will flow. Statewide, Quest will take care of getting your centrifuges to you prior to your fair, and they will also pick them up with the courier. Metro, those sites flow through your district person, so you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, I think I covered everything on that. Yeah. Okay. Unused lab supplies from a metro area can be just sent back to the lab, or they can come back to us. It doesn't make that much difference. But unused lab supplies statewide will go to the redraw contact person. So you have somebody who will be the redraw person in case somebody needs their blood redrawn, it wasn't spun correctly, and they need to come in to get it done again. Then you have a place where your participants can go if you're statewide, and all your extra supplies can basically go to that clinic or wherever you've designated. To the 9 Health Fair, you have 5 days. We would like you to have less than 5 days, but 5 days after your fair to get the cashier paperwork back to us, and you will find out what all that is. It comes in your cashier packet. And Ellen and Terry will make sure you know how to do that. The screening tally sheets, each of the screenings, optional screenings that you do, has a tally sheet, and we would like the screeners to either mark normal or FE for further evaluation. Make sure that on those tally sheets you have your site name as well as which screening that's being tallied, so that we can get those back to the 9 Health Fair. And please place those in the manila envelope marked tally sheets, and those envelopes are provided in your 9 Health Fair supplies. The tally sheets are important because we can let you know in your community or at your fair, we can do the, what are those called, Lynn? The reports. Impact reports, yeah. Section 4 in your resource guide has the equipment and supplies in the list. Let's see. New exit surveys. We got that. Oh, that can be, the new exit surveys are given in a 9 Health Fair supply box, and they can be returned in the manila envelope that's provided in them, and those come back to the 9 Health Fair.
So we thank you for your time tonight and for all the hard work you do to improve the health of your community. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
The conference has been unmuted.
And ask if there are any questions.
I have a couple of questions. They're minor. This is Inga.
Okay.
Cashiering. Just a couple of minor things.
Okay.
Okay. Running into the voucher problems for volunteers. And I know we have, when they're on site, we have the discount sheet for the different prices for the different tests. Mm-hmm. When we have the vouchers, I know the vouchers are face value at $35, but when the reconcilers get them back in the reconciling area, are they supposed to reconcile them at a discount or at the face value of $35?
Okay, Inga, that is a question for Terry and Ellen. So I would ask that you send an email.
I will check with them on that, because that's something that comes up and we all look at each other and say, okay, but we have to reconcile. So hopefully that did reconcile.
That's a great question, but that's one that needs to go to Terry and Ellen.
Ellen, okay, I'll check with them on that. Another suggestion would be, too, on that My First 9 Health Fair, the coupon, the 20%. Could they make, we had people coming through that friends of theirs that registered online for themselves saw that and said, oh, okay, and they gave it to people to present on site and wanted the discount. And I said, no, this is only for online. Could they make that line in bold, like big bold on that coupon so people know it's online only?
It is online only, and we stress that. Let me make a note.
Somehow make that stand out, online only. Because we ran into that, and people were just, some of them were really upset, and I said, sorry, this is online only.
Right. They have to register online in order to receive that 20% discount for the My First 9HF.
Right. Okay. So that I ran into that. And the only other thing you were going through saying on the new registration form, or I forgot where you said this, the fasting and the witness section there. Now, you said fasting was optional, so that does not have to be sin.
Fasting is optional, but we do ask people, there are people that still fast. And so
I know, I do.
We want to take that into consideration when we're submitting the blood specimens.
Mm-hmm. So the fasting itself is optional. Marking it on the form is imperative. They need to mark how many hours they fast, whether it was 0 or 12 hours or whatever.
Okay. So if they didn't, they just put a 0 there. And so some people just left it blank. Said, well, I didn't fast. I said, well, how are they going to know what you did?
That's exactly right.
There's some people that are in such a hurry to move on that, you know, said, hey, some of this stuff. And witness, now, is a witness, who's the witness? Is the form
witness for online registration, the witness is the online at the online registration table, or those people with the clipboards in line can witness it.
Okay, on the registration for people that come in the day of, going through, does anyone have to witness that?
Yes, and it can be your registration educators. They can witness it, or if not, then form check should catch that it has not been witnessed, and they can only witness it if they've seen the person sign it, though.
Oh, okay, so it's mainly witnessing their signature.
Yes. To be a witness, you need
probably it's best to do it at the
registration
registration table, because form check is just doing to make sure things are where they should be, which we had some issues with last year. So the cashiers should not have to be sitting there witnessing. That's something that should have been done.
It should be done before they get to cashier.
Okay. But legally, you're supposed to, in order to witness it, you need to witness them signing that sheet.
Witnessing the signature. It's not what you filled out. It's the signature that they're after. Okay. Those are my questions.
Cool. Are there any other questions?
Well, thank you for being here tonight with us.
Okay, thanks so much for all the insight, and we look forward to the, one thing real quick, Inga again.
Yes.
The credit card machines, I know you said everything comes to the business, but last year the credit card came to my home address. Is that still going to happen this year?
The credit card machines will be sent to the cashier supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is me. Okay.
Yes.
So they'll be sent to me directly. Okay, great.
That is for statewide. In the metro area, the credit card machines flow with your district leadership.
Okay, all right.
So
okay,
if
just
you're
wanting to check if I have to go into the clinic to pick it up or if it's coming here. Coming here.
No.
Okay, great.
The statewide, so those sites outside of the metro area will get their credit card machines. They will go directly to the cashier supervisor.
Okay, great.
Okay?
All right, thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you all. If you do have any other questions, feel free to reach out to your liaison, or you can respond back to the email when I send you the slides. I will be sending the slides out possibly later tonight, but probably more likely tomorrow.
Tomorrow. She'll send them out
Do we
tomorrow.
have to do anything to disconnect officially or just hang up?
You just have to hang up. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Okay, thanks much.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.